Oh, this is nice. Even got a Diet Coke here for me. Want to introduce our next speaker, Paula Marshall. Paula Marshall was named CEO of her family's business, the Bama Companies in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1985. Bama provides frozen baked goods to large-scale restaurant chains, including the nation's largest hamburger chain, nation's largest pizza chain, and the nation's largest retailer. For those of you who have eaten at McDonald's before, her father was the one who walked in and suggested to Ray Kroc that they might need an apple pie. And so any apple pie that you have had was made at Paula's company. While at the helm of Bama, Paula has grown the organization to a $300 million company, all putting a precedent on quality. Bama has been hailed as a leader in the baking industry. She's also the author of 3 books, and her life story, Sweet as Pie, Tough as Nails, and its intersection with my grandfather, Dr. Deming, in one of the chapters is absolutely fascinating, and I encourage you to get the books. I also had the pleasure of spending several days recently at Bama Companies with Paula, and I can't tell you how impressed I was with how the company works and how she works. There are not very many CEOs who spend the time to get together and actually teach their management team their ideas and their philosophy. And I had the pleasure of being able to sit through one of those and explore and understand what she was doing and how she gets that company to where it is and why those people, so many of them were there 15, 20, 25 years. It's absolutely impressive. So I have the pleasure of introducing Paula Marshall. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, when I first got together with Kevin, I immediately felt a kinship with him because his grandfather was my mentor in business. And many of you might have read some of my story or heard some of my story or how I did get to meet him. That's not necessarily what I'm going to be talking about today, but it is interesting how big of a factor Dr. Deming was in my life. Because I was young, I was just taking over the company, I was very overwhelmed. We were having some pretty massive quality issues with our largest customer at that time, which is McDonald's Corporation. It was transitioning from my father to me, and it looked like I was going to be the one that ran the company into the ground. So do any of you all have a family business, or do you know people who are involved in family businesses? If you have one and you suddenly find yourself in the spotlight, you realize you do not want to be that kid that runs the business into the ground. You don't want to have that name. It's like the guy who, misses the play and loses the Super Bowl or loses the, high school football game, or, I've talked to athletes, and I played tennis in college, and so I know a little bit about having that last shot and having it come to you and you dump it in the net, or you do something horrible and you cost your team the whole entire situation, and suddenly you'll wake up in the middle of the night and you'll have cold sweats and you'll be like, oh, and you'll be reliving that point over and over. It's one of those things that sort of never leaves you, is that you do not want to be that kid that ran that business into the ground. So somebody used to ask me, what is your biggest motivation? I said, I do not want to be that kid that ran the business into the ground. So, this is kind of a mantra for me that you'll hear over and over. But at the time I felt that I met Dr. Deming, I was in a crisis mode. I was going to be that kid. Now, even though all the things leading up to me meeting and being taken to Dr. Deming by my customer McDonald's was not my fault necessarily. How many of y'all have ever had that happen? So you find yourself in a situation where you're the output who everyone's looking at, who blames you for the situation, but you really know that it didn't happen. You didn't do it. It was happened by other people who were there before you. And I wasn't going to walk around saying, well, my dad did that, or my dad did that, or my dad did that, because that really wasn't very cool. But at the time, I was thinking, my dad did that. But that's okay. It doesn't matter. I find myself where I am, and I was where I was, and I was with the people that I was, and thank God I was. Because the head of quality at that time for McDonald's was very, very interested in the work that Dr. Deming was doing. And he had contacted, in the day, you didn't even realize, you either called and you got the secretary, or Dr. Deming actually answered the phone. And you say, may I speak to Dr. Deming? He goes, oh, this is him. It's like, well, where can we come and hear you speak? And it's at this place or that place, or I'm going to be here, or you're welcome to come and travel out with me. I mean, it was just the most unassuming, situation you could ever imagine. Because a lot of these guys, Duran and much Philip Crosby and those guys at the time were traveling around with, limousines and security details and things like that. So it was kind of an interesting, wow thing. Like, here's the guy, and we can go and, attend this thing. And in the very beginning, so we walked in late. I walked in late. That's the way I run my life, is I walk in places late, as my brother Kevin knows now. And, so I got there, and Dr. Deming was on the stage, and he was speaking, and he just sort of boomed out this question about, are there any CEOs in this room? And I mean, literally, I had just put my purse down, just put my stuff down, didn't even, have time to take a breath. And the guy from McDonald's was elbowing me and said, he's talking to you. And I said, what? And he said, he just asked if there's any CEOs in the room. And I said, well, I'm not standing up. There's like 700 people in here. He goes, oh, no, yes, you are. You are standing up. And I said, no, I'm not. And he said, yes, you are. And I said, no, I'm not. And so finally, I stood up, and it was like these spotlights going around, and suddenly the spotlight, like I was in the back row of 700 people in a room in Dearborn, Michigan, at one of the Ford seminars for Ford, the 5-day seminars that he was doing for Ford at the time. And it's like boom, 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 and here's the light. And it was one person in the room. That was me. So the spotlight comes on me, and he's kind of looking, he's like, I'm sure he was going, what the hell is that? And I said, and he's like, oh, you. And I said, yes. And he said, you're a CEO? I said, yes, I am. And he said, you'll come and see me at the break. And I was like, oh, okay. I thought, oh my God, what have I done? I just got here. I know I'm late, but you can forgive me for that, right? So I'm like, quietly crawling up to the front at the break, and there's people in line, miles long, to get him to sign their books and stuff. And he sees me in the line. He goes, you, come here. And I said, so I walked up there, and he shook my hand, very courteous. I'm so delighted to meet you. Would you like to come to movie night? And I thought, oh my God, well, I just met this man, and I was late to the thing, and I'm now up here in front of everybody, and he asked me if I want to come to movie night. I said, sure. What am I going to say? No, I'm already in trouble. I'm not going to not go to movie night. So do any of you all know what movie night was? See, you aren't a CEO, so see, you got to have my job to get into movie night. But actually, it's come here at 5:30, and we all meet, and there was a group of maybe 10 or 12 people or 15, and they watched movies. Did you ever get to that? So behind the curtain, it's like Dr. Deming's movie night, where we have highballs and where there's martinis being mixed, and things are going on back there, and he's stopping the movie, and we're talking about the movie. And as we're talking about the movie, he's getting to know us, and we're getting more comfortable. And he starts asking me about my company. And so I told him what I was doing there, why I was there, and all this and that. So long story short, this led to literally 5 years that I will never forget. I had the greatest challenges during that 5 years, and also the greatest victories and the greatest celebrations, not only from a business standpoint, but from a personal standpoint as well. Because this work that Dr. Deming taught me how to do is still my life's work. So you might say to me, well, you're the CEO of this family business and you make desserts for McDonald's and you make stuff for Yum Brands and I make stuff. I guarantee you, every person in this room has eaten my products and you don't even know it. So how many of y'all have had a McDonald's apple pie? Yes. Any other kind of pie at McDonald's? Yes. Breakfast biscuit at McDonald's? Yes. At, you guys don't have Brahms. At 7-Eleven. Breakfast biscuit at 7-Eleven. Don't blame me for the quality of that. That is their specification. Okay. It's not my favorite product, I'll tell you. But I love them as a customer because they're growing and people are eating there, surprisingly. How about pizza from Pizza Hut? Anybody ever ordered a pizza from Pizza Hut? You've eaten my product. How about the caramel apple empanada at Taco Bell? Oh, I have a new fan. Okay, I have a new fan. It's my favorite product too. It's my favorite product too. I love it. It is. See, now you know me, I know you, so, you know, we can trade food stamps every now and then. No, I'm just kidding. How many of you guys have eaten biscuits that you purchase in a bag and take them home and bake them from Sam's, Walmart, or Costco? Probably that's my product too. So you see, you have a connection with me. You didn't even know that, did you? Like I walked up here, you were like, who is that woman? She looks different. She doesn't look like a Demingite, right? Well, I never have, and I probably never will look like a Demingite because I don't know what a Demingite looks like, except most of the time they think we're geeky eggheads, right? With thick glasses, and we stare at, you know, numbers a lot, and we pontificate. Right? Because that's what Demingites do. Well, in my world, that is not what Demingites do. Demingites have to work because we have to get the pies out the door and we have to get the pizza out the door. We've got to go call on customers. We've got to make things happen. We've got to make products for these large Fortune 100 multinational food companies to exacting standards, to the gram weight. Does anybody know what a gram is? I know, I'm sitting in a room full of eggheads. What am I thinking? Grams are like, you know, ounces, right? Only it's less than an ounce. We make weights that are less than 1 gram of tolerance. So, you know, we're not talking here about something that has so much variation built into it, that so much variation is tolerated. Also, when was the last time you guys went to eat a breakfast sandwich at McDonald's or somewhere else, and you thought at the end of it, just thought about for 1 second, that you might die at the end of eating that sandwich? How many of you all thought that? How many of you guys thought that that might happen? Really? Seriously, tell me about that. So just tell me about that thought that floats through your head that you might die after eating a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich at McDonald's. Oh my goodness. Well, we have to really talk after this. So I make everything with my grandmother's recipes. I don't put preservatives in, and I don't have anything in there that you can't pronounce, unless you can't pronounce buttermilk, which I think you probably can, looking at you. So let me just tell you that the food industry, especially quick service, gets a very bad, you know, reputation. For it's a brand issue, it's marketing, etc. We use fresh buttermilk, we use flour, we use it just like you'd make in your kitchen, except we freeze them and we send them, and then they reheat them in McDonald's. Basically, they bake them in a McDonald's, so they're like a fresh baked biscuit. But because of the connotation of who it is, you think it's bad. Well, also, there's something called food safety. And food safety has become more and more and more, and I know at this university, there's a lot of corn growing around here that I saw when I was coming in. And corn is now the dern of society. Have y'all noticed that? Y'all have heard about, you said terribly unhealthy. What makes it unhealthy? There's a lot of corn and stuff. I don't know if you guys have figured that out, but you're right in the middle of corn country. Now, what about corn makes you scared? Well, it's because we process it right, we turn it into corn syrup, right? So we make a sweetener out of it, so then we use it and stuff, and then we probably use it too much, and then we use other ingredients that people can't pronounce. But literally, everything we do starts with a raw food product, like corn, like flour, like buttermilk, dairy, like fresh. Everything starts out just like that. So where in the world would you get the idea that you might die if you ate a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich every day? Most people don't think that way. I mean, you notice you were one of 50, 75 people in this room, so most of us don't think we're going to go somewhere, buy a food product, and it's going to kill us. But surprisingly, food can kill us. Not just eating it over a period of time, but handling, food safety, things like salmonella, listeria, E. coli, those types of little bugs that grow in things cannot be in my products. They cannot be. Now, E. coli comes in flour. It resides in my flour, grain silos. Those things are there, they're present. It's my job to manage it, keep it out of the food, and keep you safe. So if you think that what I do is not worthy of the work that Dr. Deming taught me to do, think again. Because you don't and you shouldn't have to think about the food you eat killing you. That's my job. That's what I do. That's why utilization of Deming theories, philosophies, and tools is massively important to me as the CEO. Now, does every CEO in America think like I do? No. Otherwise, we wouldn't have consultants and all you guys who are sitting here trying to sell stuff to corporate America. You would be like so welcomed and they would already be doing this stuff, but they're not. So what I wanted to talk to you about today was the work that I did with Dr. Deming in organizational design. Because what I do is very unique. I've never met another company, I've never met another CEO that can teach this, talk about it, nor do they understand what I'm talking about. So then now I become one of you. I become one of those eggheads that people are looking at funny and they don't understand what I'm saying. Because this is not how corporate America thinks. You guys in academia are sitting outside of corporate America. So you all realize that you're not in the process of corporate America, you're outside the process of corporate America, which automatically makes you a suspicion. Like, what are you gonna do to me? What are you gonna say about me? I can't let you on the inside because you might say something negative about me to whoever. So me being on the inside, being a corporate person, being a person who does this every day, who uses this every day, I get invited to speak a lot. Now, does that mean that they listen to me and they jump up and say, oh, can you come in and work with me and show me how to do this? No. That means I'm like the clown at the circus with the juggling, bowling pins, and they might never talk to me again after they hear this stuff. Because they don't want to do it, they don't think like this. This is not exactly how they were taught to think about organizational structure. So let me just take you on a little journey. These are literally Dr. Deming's theories on organizational performance. For those of you who are Demingites, you've seen this, heard this, you know what I'm talking about. Our previous speaker was talking about it. How do we get the best from people? How do we get people to be motivated intrinsically, not extrinsically? Well, first of all, we have to start from the uterus and the womb and the time that they come out little babies. Because from the time that you are born, you learn nothing about intrinsic motivation. You learn everything about extrinsic motivation. Don't do this, do this. If you get that grade, I'll give you $1. If you do this, I'll give you $2. If you do that, if you pay attention, if you do this, everything that comes at you from the time you're a little child is a carrot on a stick designed to make you jump how many times we want you to jump as parents. So there's absolutely nothing that gives you an idea that when you go through school, because, oh, by the way, in school, what are we doing to you? We're grading you, we're rating you, and we're ranking you. We're telling you, you cannot get into this person's school or that person's company or do this, do this, do this unless you have the highest this, the highest that, the highest this, and the highest that. And frankly, I was the worst of everything and the dumbest person in every room every single time ever. I can tell you right now. So, when you learn all this stuff that Dr. Deming taught, you realize that you are on an uphill battle with the people who are going to work in your organization, because none of them are ever going to have seen this, thought like this, been taught this. No one ever understands it. What do you mean externally motivate me? This is what we do. My parents paid me for grades. My parents paid me to keep my room clean. My parents paid me to dress nice and go to Sunday school. My parents paid me for this. My parents paid me for that. Hey, guess what? I'm a parent. I did it too. I'm not throwing rocks at parents here, and I'm not throwing rocks as parents. I'm saying there's nothing that prepares you for going into a company to understand any of this. So, gaining profound knowledge by working cooperatively across departments and with willing workers for the benefit of the entire system. What the heck does that even mean? Most of us have no idea. No idea. Kevin, can you help me like when I need to be like thinking about finishing or whatever you need me to do, okay? Not that I'm already thinking about finishing. I just want you to know, like, I just want to make sure I don't cause him any stress. Okay, so what's a willing worker? Who are willing workers? Did any of you guys know what Deming called a willing worker? In my company, it's someone who stands on the line and does that job for 8 hours. It's a willing worker. What tools do they have? What abilities do they have to affect process change? Zero. I got to tell you, if any of you guys just started a brand new job, like, you've ever started a brand new job. You come in, thank you, I love you. Can I just tell you? You eat my Taco Bell pies and you're raising your hand and you're smiling. So willing workers, no power, no authority, no nothing. You come in, you're told what to do. In a fast food restaurant, you're given a spatula and a temperature and maybe a few little other instructions, and then we leave you to the wolves. Has anybody ever seen that I Love Lucy where she's on the candy thing? Remember that? Remember that? Yeah, most of us are like that. That's a willing worker. Lucy was a willing worker. She came in, she was told what to do. Now, did she do her job well? Not really. Well, why? Why didn't she do her job well? What was causing her to not do her job well? Because she was a willing worker. I mean, she was doing everything she could, putting them in her apron, eating them, trying to figure it out. But what was happening to Lucy there as a willing worker? Who said that? Thank you very much. Somebody sped up the system. Somebody sped the line up. Someone she couldn't even see, right? Like, you could not see who was speeding up the line. Because if you could, you'd run around there and tell them to stop it. Like, I'm not ready. I'm eating the candy. I'm sticking it down my apron. I can't deal with this, right? Well, there's no one to talk to. The candy just starts coming out faster and faster. So what Dr. Deming tried to help me understand was, look, you're going to these willing workers and expecting them to do something different when they have no power, no control, no authority, no nothing. And in fact, you're demotivating them because you're changing everything all the time. And you don't give them the tools to do the job properly before you go and change it, and then you certainly never give them the new tools for the new system because, my God, I'm already off to the new system. So they're like 3 systems back. So the first thing you have to do is understand the role of a willing worker and understanding what you're doing to that willing worker. Before you can understand even 1/10 of the entire system, don't even think you're going to understand the entire system. Just a little piece of it would be fine. Then we're going to focus on, in these typical American or wherever organizations, we're going to have no focus on profound knowledge. We're going to have no focus on willing workers. We're going to have no focus on customers, suppliers, products, services, nothing. And I'll show you why here in a second. Let me just do really one quick thing. There are two reasons, or some big reasons, why companies don't do Deming. And I'll give them to you right here. This is straight from me. So these are like Paula's 5 deadly sins of, corporate America CEOs and why things don't work. So Deming methods are really hard work. This stuff ain't easy, folks. There is no picnic out there. And nobody's going to put you on a pedestal and bring you in on the throne. In fact, they might even just put you in a box and put you over in the corner and say, don't come out until we tell you to. And they're going to roll in when something's going wrong and there's a big crisis. And they're going to want something immediately, like give it to me yesterday. Because, by the way, they don't understand what it takes to gather data, put data together, put systems information together, understand the data, define the data, and then make a plan, do a study, plan, do, study, act. Now, if you're in crisis mode, what did my mentor, Dr. Deming, used to tell me? Forget this. It was like you were saying, wait till someone dies, right? Well, in a crisis mode, you can't wait till someone dies, but to think you're going to do Deming in a crisis mode is ridiculous. It takes too much time and too much work, and people don't understand it. Gaining feedback from people in the process takes time and is not a quick fix. Using Deming tools is scary. What if I do it wrong? I've had this happen to me a million times. I did it to Dr. Deming. He kept sending me back and making me do it till I understood that there are no mistakes. There isn't a do it wrong. You just need someone to help you. There's no doing it wrong. Just the fact that you're sitting here having a conversation is doing it right. So if I have a knock against all my friends in academia, it's that you have made it so swiggin' hard and so complicated that a normal business executive, A, will not want to do it, and B, they'll be afraid they're going to do it wrong if they try to do something. So my advice to my teammates is always make it simple. Make it easy. That's how I had to learn it. Simple and easy. Well, I don't know much that's much simpler than PDSA. Gotta say it, okay? And then the way I do this organization stuff, I think is pretty easy, but you'll decide that for yourself. It's more comfortable to make plans involving people by doing all the planning in secret. Then I throw it out and reveal it to you after all the decisions have already been made. Now, how many of you guys have ever worked in a system like that? Where they come out of the closets in the dark of night and they leave all the cigar smoke, back in there in that room, in that smoking room, by the way. It's not a non-smoking room because that's where all the cigar smoking's going on. And it's dark in there and no one can see in there and no one knows what's going on in there except I know my fate is being decided in those smoke-filled rooms. Well, do you think that encourages motivation? Do you think that encourages somebody to be excited about coming to work every day? Do you think I have joy in my work when someone's over there plotting and planning my future without asking me? They don't even know me. What are they doing in there? Well, chances are it isn't in your best interest. And then if I do it in secret, this is the other sort of code thing in corporate America. It's like, if I do it in secret, then I will only have to put up with these people and their stupid questions and manage all their anxiety one time, which is not true. And that is when I tell them what I decided to do. Because honestly, seriously, CEOs who are running a publicly traded company in these days have no time for your anxiety, nor what motivates you or what doesn't motivate you. Quite frankly, They have quarterly earnings and quarterly things they have to do. And I got to tell you, managing people is not a quarterly function. In no way, shape, or form can you do people systems in a quarterly by quarterly fashion. You have to drop down to the simplest form of people management, which is you're number one, you're number two, you're number three, number four, and we're going to flip a coin. And today, guess what? In Jack Welch's world, you're number four, you're the bottom 10%. Thank you. Here's your parting gift. Goodbye. They have no time for you. They have no time to know you. They have no time to know your name, family, nothing. And frankly, in this environment that we're in with corporate America today, it's better that way. Because I might have to axe you tomorrow, and I really don't want to know you if I have to axe you. So that's plain and simple. That's why they don't do it. So let me go to this piece then. Let me ask you a question. Do any of you all think organizational charts work or are effective? Do you want to answer? Nick, what do you think?
They can be.
Okay.
If it's sort of the flow of material or the flow of work and not so much the hierarchy.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely. Anybody else want to comment? Thank you. He is my class favorite, I have to say. He's going to get a prize. Number one, numero uno, right here. I'm just kidding, because everybody in this room is numero uno to me. So don't let me lead you down that path, okay? Because I wouldn't be a good Deming girl if I gave prizes, would I? No. To the number one, would I? No. No, not at all. Okay, so organizational charts. Let me take you through this little exercise that I do in my very own company. Now, this is part of a presentation that I do for all new management people at Bama. There's about 4 different classes that I teach. The one that Kevin observed was called Integration of Deming Principles. So that's an actual hands-on tools. You're going to use tools as a management person, and you're going to learn them. So I teach profound knowledge, and I teach some basic, very basic, because again, I'm making these things basic for people. I don't want anybody to be confused or scared about using them. 4 or 5 basic tools. Fishbone diagrams, Pareto diagrams are huge in my class. Prioritization with a Pareto diagram, and then turn it into an action plan, turn it into a project. Put some dates, deliverables, and put some metrics around it, and then go. That's it. Those are the tools I teach in my own little Deming integration class. This class is for people who are involved in running a department, running a group, needing to understand how to structure people in a system so that the work can be done most effectively. Okay? So I'm going to talk about this for a second, and then I'm going to show you some examples, and then we're going to take some questions. So in a traditional organization, Fortune 100, the first thing you're going to do is walk in the door and see this thing that's on your left. In fact, you might even be in some classes right now where they're teaching this. Now, I'm going to tell you, don't get an F. Like, don't go in and say, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. But don't run to apply it to your new job that you're going to have when you graduate from here. Because I'll tell you, the damaging thing to people and to employees, and to go directly to what the previous speaker was saying, is this is the most huge demotivator in all of corporate America. The organizational chart. Now, sir in the red shirt, you look like I might have just confused you, because you're like going, huh? How is that a huge demotivator? I don't understand. It is the number one demotivator. Why? Because the first thing you're going to tell me is all the power resides with that person in the orange box. If that person is not you, then too bad. Right? If it's you, hooray, let's have a parade, and let's carry you around, and let's pretend like you have the most beautiful clothes in the kingdom when really you don't have anything on. Because I'll tell you why. Nobody that's sitting down there at the bottom in the light blue box is going to tell you anything. Except, isn't it a beautiful day, sir? Isn't everything wonderful here in Mickey's world? Do I have any problems? Of course not. Is anything going wrong today? You in the red box might ask you in the turquoise box. Anything going wrong today? What do you think you're going to say? Absolutely not. Isn't everything perfect here in Mickey's world? And what do you think every single person in the light blue box and the medium blue box is going to say? Any problems today here, folks? No. Everything's just wonderful in Mickey's world. Well, unfortunately, if you're me, you're in the red box and you're dumb and you're thinking, gee, why won't people tell me that things are going wrong? I've got phone calls from my customers. My phone is ringing off the hook. I've had 9,000 calls in the last 3 weeks talking to me about how bad my quality is. Now I'm running around trying to figure out where my bad quality is coming from, and guess what I'm doing? I am talking to those individual people in those individual boxes, and I'm saying, why did you do that? Could we please have a conversation and you tell me why you did that? Gee, that makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. And what just happened? Probably, if you're in the Jack Welch organization, you just got rated, ranked, and you could be that person in the bottom, the turquoise, and you're going to get fired tomorrow. It's not your fault. It's not my fault, but say that as you're going out the door, because in the Jack Welch system, if you're in the bottom 10%, you are out the door. No regard for your status, for what you were doing. They put you in Alaska and told you to sell lemonade, ice cold lemonade. It doesn't matter. The guy in the Bahamas is doing it better than you. Really? Surprise, surprise. Wow. You don't have to be a brain surgeon to go to the Bahamas and sell lemonade, do you? You might have to be a brain surgeon to go to Alaska and sell lemonade, ice cold lemonade. But no one at the top cares about that, do they? The president of the lemonade company only cares about selling lemonade, and if you're the guy that gets sent to Alaska in January, you ain't gonna sell much. But unfortunately, at the end of January, when they look at your quotas and find out not much product moved there, instead of coming out to ask you, what is wrong here? They fire you. So this is easy. This thing right here is easy for corporate America to deploy, especially in the quarterly by quarterly role that we all live in, and we've got to produce only upward results. There are no variability results allowed. It's only up. Now, let me ask you that. Is that a job anyone wants? Please say no, okay? Now, here's what I went to a seminar. Dr. Deming said, look, I can see you're wrestling with this. Why don't you come to the seminar? I go to Cincinnati. There was a person there presenting about how to use a system flow diagram in place of an org chart, because people used to ask him, well, what do I do if I don't use this? He's like, good question. Next question. There weren't a lot of answers because there weren't a lot of people doing it, so there wasn't anybody that really was playing around with it, because actually no one in corporate America was listening anyway. So I said, well, I'm going to try this stuff. I'm going to try this. I'm going to see if I can make this work. Okay? So y'all have seen that before. So let me show you an example. All right? Here's my blank template. Here's my blank template. Yeah, I'll go with this one. Okay. Let's see, how do I get all this stuff off? I go down here and I do this. Got it. Okay? So this is what I came up with. This is a blank template. This is what we use at Bama. So part of my inputs, if I'm a management person, are my mission, my vision, my values, my Deming philosophy, my Covey 7 habits, all my measurement, my future picture. Those are all inputs to the system. All of that is an input to the system. Then I've got senior team group functions. I've got people who work with them and for them. And then I have all the functions broken out below. Functions needed to deliver to the output. I am doing all of this prior to any box, any name, any person. I don't allow anybody in my company to fill these in until we've had these discussions. This is number one. We talk about what's the output, what are needed. These are all of our strategies at Bama. These are the strategies. This is what we need to produce. This is what we need to do. Here's all the things in the middle that we need to do that. Many times what my team members find is they don't have all the functions necessary to produce what the customers are requiring. Because the other problem you have in that other box, top-down driven thing, where all the knowledge is going to sit up with one person, where are the customers in that? Can anybody tell me in the typical organizational box design flow down from the top with all the information resting in this guy with the orange? Where are the customers? If they're not in there, who are the customers? Who is the customer? Let me just get you to think out loud with me for a second. Who is the customer? Might be too hard for me to go back, Kevin, but I think I can do it, all right? So who is the customer in this? In this box right here. Tell me where the customer is. Isn't the main customer the orange guy? Right? Yes. Could be, yes, but I don't see the customer. Now I see research, I do see sales and marketing, I see logistics. I mean, I see a lot of functions that are there for the support of the customer. But in how the organization functions, there is no customer present. There's no customer represented there. I mean, you can say sales and all that, but they're not representing the needs of the customers. Right? You do understand that, right? They're there to take my stuff when I want to give it to them. Because I have quarterly earnings and I have things that I'm responsible for, and they've got to just be open arms and take it. And there's not very many places that I know that just open up their arms and say, here, give me what you got, right? So you get a false sense in that system. You get a false sense of what is the customer and what do they want and what are they looking for even. Because there's literally no curiosity going on with customers in that. There's no curiosity, there's no time, it's not allowed, and it's not structured that way. The only people we care about are the people in the next box up, and ultimately, ultimately, the orange box is the customer. That's the saddest thing of all. That's why you all don't feel important when you go into Target, or you don't feel important when you go into X company. That's why you don't feel like it matters if you're there or not. Have you ever noticed that in corporate America today? Do you feel like it matters if you're there or not? The only place that feels like it matters is in one of your favorite restaurants where they know you by name. My Starbucks used to call me by name, now they don't. You know, people who do that kind of stuff, like who know you when you walk in the door, we prize them. Like we will covet them, go to great lengths to use their services because it's so uncommon that when someone shows up that really embraces me and my needs and seems not to care that they're driving for a quarterly profit or a quarterly earnings number, that it's a unique deal, right? So let me show you this. I've got 10 minutes left, and then I want to do some questions if you guys are okay with that. Let me get this right here. Okay. I want to show you one that's filled out so you won't just think I brought you something that's not important, okay? So this is I never can find that Power View thing. I think it's right there. There it is. Okay, so this is a presentation I did. We had some team members had left. We had some situations where some people had left us and gone to another organization because the guy that was my president was going to go be the president. He didn't have to have me there, so he thought that was a better benefit because, then he didn't have to work for anybody but himself and the private equity guys. So hooray for him. But when he left, it kind of left a hole. So I went to my group, my senior team, and I said, look, change is not a bad thing, right? So I'm just giving you this overview of how I talk to my organization. So this is a very large system view chart. It only represents the senior team of my company. This only represents like 7 people and 7 different functions. But just to give you an idea how this works, I don't fill in any names. The names are in red and they go in last. What's talked about first and foremost is what are we trying to do here at Bama? What functions do we need to do that? Where are the functions going to reside in the yellow buckets? And look at how messy that looks. But do you realize that that is corporate America? That's what work looks like. Work is not all clean, like let's just, push it all down and then it never goes back up, right? Work flows across, like Dr. Deming taught us. It flows across in a system. Work is a system. There's no buckets, there's no power structure, there's no God in here. Yeah, there's a big bubble in the middle that Asia operations touch and Europe operations touch and the US group touches. And then we have this whole thing down at the bottom here that is just our customers, gold standard sensory, continuous improvement, global business execution. All those are functions within a role that we're creating that then will have a name on it, but it doesn't have it at the time we started this work. So we start with the end in mind. We start with the functions needed to support what the business needs to have happen. And then we go and match skill sets to functions to core competencies, what's needed to do those jobs. Does that sound different than what you might have heard an organizational development, people, techie kind of person say before? Because I've never heard any of them ever talk like this. Like I've had more turnover in my people systems executive group because I cannot hire now people who come out of traditional organizational development, traditional Fortune 100 companies, or people who are just out of human resource school. I have to tell you, it's very sad. I home grow all my people systems people, and guess what? I'm the one that tells them what we're going to do. And then I let them go off and play and design once they understand the fundamentals of Deming's theories. But no one can work in my people systems group unless they understand and believe in Deming theories. Because I won't have it. I will tell them, the one thing that's going to get you kicked out of this place more than anything is if you bring in an org chart and you try to push that thing here. Because I've spent 25 years getting them out, and I'm not going to let anybody bring them back in. So if you can't buy into this, because it's too complicated or it's too messy or you don't like the way it looks or whatever, and you need to go back up to an org chart somewhere, you better do it in a closet, in your bathroom, at your house, and never ever let me see it. Because I will burn it. So I don't know if you guys have any questions. I probably have a couple minutes. Maybe Kevin, 1 minute? No minutes? 2 minutes, and then I'll be on the panel. So maybe time for one question if you guys have any. I know this is a lot, so I apologize. Yes? Mm-hmm. It's an ever training job. I'm committed, I'm dedicated to training. Anytime a new person comes in, there is a complete core curriculum. We don't hire people unless they're open to working this way. Most people don't know how. And we're committed, and we train continuously. Just like Dr. Deming said in his 14th point, was train continually. Because as people evolve, as they change roles, as they get in different parts of the organization, they see things from a different perspective, we've got to be there with the training to support them being successful in their role. Because our mission over here on this side is people are wildly important. We help them be successful. And we partner with people long term, long. Most of corporate America believes in 3 years and out because the new people won't expect as much pay and I can do it cheaper. But the cost of turnover is so high that when you work in a role like we are creating here at Bama, you can't have the turnover that they have at PepsiCo or Nabisco or Kraft or, I can't even think of selling my company to private equity or any of those because in 2 minutes, it would all be gone. So we have an ESOP philosophy. We're going to sell the company over time to the employees. This is just a strategy that I've determined that is going to happen because I don't want it to be the other way. So yes, really fast. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I will be on the panel. Yes.
Most people have difficulty seeing relationships.
Yes.
And have difficulty seeing the process.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously you overcome that difficulty through your training.
Mm-hmm.
What are a few most effective
Well, really fast, and I can talk about that a lot later, and I have a podcast that Kevin produced of my talking about the rating and ranking of people and how this all ties together. Because the first thing we do, and people don't understand this either, but the first thing we do is tell people, none of your compensation will be tied to any part of your daily job. So there's one for you. After I have to pick them up off the floor, they go, what? So, rating and ranking doesn't work, and pitting these groups against each other doesn't foster cooperation. So we have a job system, a comp and benefit system that sits outside of this, that's based on market pay and market rate, and job descriptions are the X bar, job descriptions are the center data point, and then we go out and market comp for every job. This is all done in cooperation, non-competing, everybody working together for the benefit of the system. Like Dr. Deming says, we're running an organization. It's even more interdependent than an orchestra or way more interdependent than a bowling team. So what we're doing has to have the highest level of cooperation, communication, and teamwork. So no walls, no boxes, no nothing. And it's messy because that's how organizations are. They're messy. Thank you all very much. I appreciate your time.